Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
American Pie 2 is a movie I'm talking about right now. Talked about the first American Pie last week. This week, I'm jumping into the second Pie, as it were. And I actually appreciated the second film a bit more. It doesn't necessarily have the classic comedic moments that the first one had, but I feel it's a more cohesive comedy film. I think the aspects of this film hold up far more than the first one. And I think part of that is the fact that these characters are now in college. So the end of the first film, they all wanted to get laid before they graduated high school. In this one, it starts with them completing their freshman year in college. You have Jim having his second sexual experience ever, and of course, some of the same comedic beats are replicated in this film, with the scene and Jim and his college girlfriend about to have sex. And of course, it's also the moment at which Jim's parents are going to visit him. You even have the same porn type music playing in the background as the score to this scene, where he's trying to have sex, or he's having sex with his girlfriend, and his parents walk in. But not only does his parents walk in, the girl's parents walk in. So you have the same dynamic of Jim in these awkward sexual positions around his parents. But it's summer vacation. That's how it starts. That's how, like, of course, and also Blink-182. The soundtrack to this sequel is also an upgrade. Far more pop punky, far more popular music that of the time. So much of it. And I forgot how many times. I've probably seen this movie a bunch of times. Like the first one and the second one. The second one I've probably watched maybe not as much as the first. But it's easily been a decade since I've watched any of these films. But it's the guys getting back together. They go back home for summer vacation. There's like another house party where it's another high school house party, end of the year party, similar to the first one, and another comedic beat instead of Stifler accidentally drinking the beer cup that has cum in it, he ends up getting pissed on, which is another kind of fun take on that same scene. You also have John Cho coming back, the originator of the MILF term that was originated from the first film. That is back. John Cho is back, has a slightly bigger part in this one, where him and his buddy are huge fans, almost disciples of Finch, because of Finch's legendary story of him having sex with Stifler's mom, being the quote-unquote MILF. So you have like these kind of legendary stories that have been passed on to the kids that are still in high school, of these guys that are now in college. You have the Finch story of sleeping with Stifler's mom, but you also have, on the other side of that coin, you have the legendary story of Jim accidentally sending the link to his live stream to everybody in town somehow. That happened. But his legendary story is that he came prematurely ejaculated, not once, but twice, while live streaming to everybody in the school. So he has a similar type of a legend amongst the kids that are still in high school, but on the flip side of that, the kind of more humiliating side, which Jim's existence is to be humiliated for his sexual prowess, or lack thereof, I should say, which is something that I related to quite a bit. I related to Jim in the first film, and I related to Jim even more in the second, being just like sexually awkward and still not understanding like what he wants out of life, and just not understanding, being stuck in the mindset that is flooded with like young adult hormones to really see clearly. So as an adult, I now relate to the parents quite a bit more, despite the fact that I don't have any kids, but just just trying to be the cool parents. Like I kind of relate to that quite a bit more now. But at the time, Jim was my boy. I really related to Jim quite a bit, which makes sense that he is in this film more so than the first film, where the first film kind of followed all of the four friends almost equally. This one focuses quite a bit more on Jim. You don't see, you still see the Stifler-Finch kind of back and forth, their kind of ongoing battle, their kind of ongoing, friction. Kevin is, for the most part, very, very sparingly used. Same thing with what was the other guy's name? Where is it at here? Chris Klein as Oz. Chris Klein got a little bit better at acting from the first movie to this one. But still, every single scene that Oz is in, Chris Klein's character, is the most over-the-top, like, just cheesy, romantic everything. Like, every time the movie goes to Chris Klein at all, whether it's him talking with his buddies on the beach, whether it's him talking to his girlfriend that he's trying to have a long-distance relationship, not Tara Reid, what was her name? Mina Suvari, like, is the cheesiest, melodramatic, romantic, like Lifetime disgusting sappiness, which is almost funny. It's almost like maybe the directors on some level knew how cheesy it was in the first film, their overly romantic sex scene that happened in the first film, that they kind of carried that on into the second film. But he's not a big aspect of it. The Many Faces is an ongoing abstract ink portrait series that I started many years ago. I release a new face every day, but go to inspireddisorder.com to check them out. So many available. But as a listener to The Ray Taylor Show, you can save 10% when you use coupon code INSPIRED when you check out. So go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF, that stands for The Many Faces. Go check them out, browse the entire collection, and when you decide on a piece, or maybe multiple pieces, make sure you use coupon code INSPIRED when you check out, and you'll save 10%. As a big thank you for checking out my work, for collecting my work, and for listening to The Ray Taylor Show. And with that said, let's get back to the show. The biggest part is mostly Jim and his kind of wanting to impress Nadia, the foreign exchange student, played by Shannon Elizabeth. But the idea of the movie, it's summer vacation. They get this house on the lake that they're going to, getting out of their neighborhood where they feel like the creepy old dudes that are showing up to the high school party. They want to have their own thing. They're stepping out. They're trying to like break free in some ways. And they get this house, which in today's terms would have been like an Airbnb, but they're like renting this house. And to help afford the house, they bring along Stifler, who is not necessarily part of their crew. Obviously, Stifler and Oz are classmates. They're going to the same college, so he's still tangentially related to the core group, despite the fact that he's not technically part of the core group of friends. But he is one of the biggest. Sean William Scott is one of the biggest. Like, him and Jim are the two kind of biggest comedic aspects, like powerhouses of this show, of this movie. So they're all going to this lake house where they're going to have a blowout party at the end of summer and all this stuff. And they're all going to take another step into manlyhood. But of course, everything doesn't go the right way. At the end of this movie, it really feels like it was a transition for them. It was a transition in the movie, tonally, to go from very, like, immature comedy. And there's still a lot of that in this movie. But the characters definitely matured quite a bit more at the end of this. Like, they turned that page from high school to now college, which is still, like, college immaturity is still like a level of maturity above something that a normal teen would be, but is still far below actual adulting. They're far from being actual adults, but they are taking the first baby steps into being adults. But you have, you know, kind of, like I said, some of the old gags from the first movie are repurposed in this one in a lot of ways. So Stifler, instead of drinking the cup of cum, he's like in this thing where he's at this party back at the high school party where it's like this bottle of champagne he's gonna have with this girl, but then like he ends up accidentally knocking her out, and then above him is John Cho about to take a piss because the bathroom's full. And for whatever reason, Stifler thinks that this girl that he accidentally knocked out is pouring the champagne on his head, but it's not champagne, it's piss. Which is I remember being a hilarious scene, and it's still funny today. I mean, it's just to see Sean William Scott be the butt of these jokes is kind of fun, because he's a douchebag. So it's funny to see a douchebag get their comeuppance. So legendary stories, everything, all of that. Let's see. When they go to this, lake house. Right next to the lake house is the band camp. The camp where Jim stumbles upon what's her name? The band girl from the first one. Her name is Michelle, Allison Hannigan. Michelle from the first movie. He sees her playing the flute alone in the forest while he's out looking around, and actually turns out that she's teaching a class of a bunch of girls. Like, she is now a camp counselor at this band camp and teaching all these girls to play the flute, which from the first movie, if you remember the first movie and the story that this band girl, Michelle, had about how sexually deviant all these band members are, for Jim to stumble upon a large group of girls all playing the flute, which Michelle used her flute as a sexual toy in one of her stories. Jim kind of blown away at all the flutes that are there, which is also funny. And him kind of getting knocked out and people assuming that he's this kind of like prodigy guy that's there showing up to the band camp to put on a performance. So he gets like shoved on stage with a trombone, and you have a crowd of people watching him, and he has no idea how to play. But the audience, super supportive. Like, all these parents, I'm assuming parents in the audience, are super supportive of him. They're like he's assumed to be Petey. So they're like, yeah, Petey, come on. They're like getting up and dancing. Come on, Petey, you can do it. So, of course, Jim, feeling himself, kind of gets into it and starts just like playing noises out of this trombone, but really feeling himself, like really going all in, being an entertainer on stage. And feeling that whole thing, which is a funny scene, you know, just another awkward situation for Jim to be in, trying to get a hold of and, you know, kind of talk to Michelle, be around Michelle. Let's see, where are we at here? Their neighbors at this lake house they assume are lesbians. There's two women who are next door, and because they see them holding hands, all of these dudes assume that they're lesbians. So there's one day where they go into their house and they want to watch them make out with each other, but they're not really lesbians. They're just college girls just enjoying each other, having fun, maybe experimenting a little bit, but they want to do it. And there's this funny scene where they're like, these women are manipulating these dudes because they're dumb dudes. And they're like, oh, we want you to kiss. And they're like, well, we'll kiss, but you have to kiss first. And meanwhile, like, it's this whole sting operation these dudes are trying to form to try and spy on these girls who are going to make out. And it backfires completely in their face. Where now, like, everybody, similarly to the first movie where Jim accidentally, like, shares the link to his live stream to everybody in town, in this movie, it is their walkie-talkies are being broadcast to everybody who has any kind of radio listening device in town. So now everybody's hearing the audio of these guys being told to kiss each other, and then them kissing, and how awkward everybody is when the dudes have to do the kissing or whatever. And it goes from kissing to like, oh, we're gonna do, like, we want to see you. We'll do more, but we want to see you give each other hand jobs. And it gets to a point where, like, Stifler's like just Stifler, the biggest douchebag who you would think would be the most against this whole thing, ends up getting into it so bad because he wants to see the girls get into it together, that he's like willing to he's a more willing participant in this whole thing than you would have assumed. Out of all of them, he is the far more into, you know, doing what he has to do just to see a couple attractive women get it on with each other. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. There's also the hilarious scene where, like, Jim is kind of feeling his oats and he's doing like karate in this room, accidentally breaks a lamp, and he's gluing the lamp back together, and then he gets like this, I think he was talking to Nadia online or whatever, and she's coming to visit him, and he's feeling like all randy, and he goes to use this lube that the boys bought for him. I think they gave it to him, and it's a hilarious gag where he accidentally uses the super glue to masturbate instead of the lube. That was fun. Like, I think the comedic bits in this hold up a little bit better than the first one, despite the fact the first one, had really, really classic bits, but way over the top. These a little bit slightly more grounded. It's slightly more grounded for Jim to mistake glue for lube than it is for Jim to have sex with an apple pie on the counter. It's just the universe we're living in here. So then the band girl, Michelle, offers to help teach Jim how to be a better lover for when Nadia shows up, because she's going to show up for the end of the year party, or the end of summer party. And Michelle's like, yeah, I'll help you out. I don't care. Like, she's like, cool. She's open. She's obviously open sexually. She's far more experienced than Jim, but she doesn't have like the same hang-ups. So she's like totally willing to help him prepare for this thing. You have the other friends, like Kevin and his girlfriend. They're like, they broke up, but like Kevin is, he's jealous because she brings this other dude around. It's like this small, like, there's all these small things that are happening with the other relationships, but none of them are really focused on as much as Jim kind of preparing for Nadia to show up. And it all kind of hinges on this end of the year party where you have, Nadia shows up, everybody's counterparts from their other relationships show up. You have even the Shermanator shows up from the first one, and everything kind of comes to a head with this thing. And at the end, everybody kind of learns a lesson. Like Kevin learns to be a good friend with his ex, which is probably something that I could learn from my exes. I'm not really close friends with any of my. Oh, I guess some of them, but the one that really broke my heart. It's just like it's impossible for me. It's just like physically impossible for me to like try and be friends with. And it's been over a decade now. But so they all kind of grow from this summer thing. Jim finds out that he's not really into Nadia, that he's actually into, like, he fits better with Michelle. Because, like, awkward, and, like, he even comes to a point where he's talking with Nadia, and he's, like, trying to tell this story about band camp, and realizing that he is so much more like he's so much more like Michelle than he is like Nadia, and that it just makes more sense for him to be with Michelle than it does for him to be with Nadia. Clearly, like, steps in the right direction. You have, like, all of these characters are slowly becoming more mature in this movie. And it's fun, the whole movie, Finch is getting into tantric sex, and because of his experience with Stifler's mom. So there's always like this looming thing of like, is Stifler's mom going to show up? There's even like the characters think she's going to show up to this end of the year party, but it ends up actually being Stifler's younger brother, which is kind of awkward that he's got like this teenage kid at this college age party where it's like he's clearly underage and hitting on all these women. But so Finch thinking that was going to be Stifler's mom, but it ended up not being until the very end. Like, she shows up at the very end of the movie and Stifler gets a second round with her. But yeah, a fun movie. I enjoyed it a little bit more than the first one. I think it holds up more. I don't think I've ever seen American Wedding or American Pie Reunion. I don't think I've seen the next two sequels. I think this was the last one I watched in the franchise. I could be wrong, but I'm excited to see where it goes. I was happy to see that it matured a little bit, and I think the fact that they're going. Maybe I did see Wedding. Actually, now that I think I did see Wedding once. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it matures leading into the next two of the films. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a little bit more. I think it holds up a little bit better than the first one, and the soundtrack's a little bit better. Like, everything's a little bit better in this one. I think it does a lot of similar things, similar comedy beats, similar bits, but in a different way, and I think it holds up pretty good. So anyway, that's American Pie 2. Check it out if you're looking for a raunchy comedy laugh. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at InspiredDisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at InspiredDisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.